Good morning, fellow Facebookers. This is John Adamson with Seeking Light. And yes, ding dong, the mandate's dead. So we awoke today on this December 1st, 2021, to a collective sigh of relief and from some quarters a shout of freedom, like William Wallace. And what happened in the last couple of days? Well, as I was making my video last night, one of the things that was being propagated on the news was the two court decisions that have occurred in rapid succession, one on Monday, one yesterday. So the one on Monday was brought to a federal court by 10 states, from what I've read. And those 10 states were requesting that there would be a stay upon the enforcement of the CMS ETS against their states. And they cited that there would be irreparable harm to the healthcare provided in those states with the absolute enforcement of the healthcare ETS. And so that judge ruled in favor of those states. Well, yesterday, another court case came out, and this time the federal court ruled against CMS as a whole. And so this has federal implications and implications to all states. So anyway, the argumentation has been basically the same. And anyway, it's a win for freedom-loving Americans and freedom-loving healthcare workers, and for the patients, frankly. Uh, One of the states that sued in the first suit decided on Monday was pointing out that they were going to lose whole facilities if the healthcare ETS was enforced specifically, on their states. And so they were able to show conclusively that they could not do business, and therefore they would cause harm to the people that they were serving. There was an instance of a nursing home in a rural area, the only nursing home for a long distance. They would have to shut their doors because it was a very high percentage of their staff had said, we're not getting the shot and we're walking. And so that would have caused them to close their doors, and that would cause the relocation of all those patients, some of them probably not in a good position health-wise to travel. And also think about the loved ones that put their family in certain nursing homes, partly because it's convenient for them to go visit that person. But then you move them, let's say even hours away, excuse me, and suddenly you've got a situation where patient, that elderly patient, can no longer be visited on a regular basis by their loved ones. Whole hospitals. There was a hospital in a rural setting that was saying they were going to have to shut down if ultimately they were forced to have the healthcare ETS enforced. So, with that said, this keeps their doors open, and it helps that community be served by a healthcare hospital right in their center where they live. Because without that hospital, some of these people are going to have to travel hours to get health care. And think about that. I mean, emergency health care. Are you going to be able to make it hours before you're dead if you have a true emergency? So this is a huge win. And now these were lower courts. This is not SCOTUS that decided it. But one of the things that gives me hope about this, about SCOTUS upholding these lower courts' decisions, is the fact that we have seen this particular Supreme Court under Chief Justice Roberts uphold, for the most part, lower court decisions. In fact, Justice Roberts, much to the chagrin of some of us conservatives, has basically stayed with precedent established in previous court cases. And I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that principle is known as stare decisis, which is the principle that you basically adhere to previous decisions. I know I'm not explaining it well. I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard the term explained before. So, with that said, we can rejoice. Now, where does this leave us that happen to be healthcare workers, or even in private sector companies where you are still getting the enforcement of the mandate, even though the OSHA ETS was struck down, was it last month now? Everything seems to be happening so fast. or being so so long ago in the same regard. So what do you do if your company is still requiring enforcement? Well, one thing I would definitely bring up to them the fact that now they are no longer under obligation. And then there are certain things they need to consider that are costing them money. So, for example, weekly testing. They're required to pay for that if they're enforcing it. And if they're paying for it, therefore, it's going to cost them a lot of money. The other thing about that is if they don't have to enforce it, let's say like the mandatory distancing between people or other things that might be required under it, I would try to find ways in which you can show them that they're going to save money by not implementing a now defunct federal mandate. So it's all about the money, right? Money talks. And I think that's where you're going to find your inroad to helping your company that no longer is being mandated to enforce these mandates. I think you're going to have an inroad to getting these things struck down. And that's what I'm going to be doing. And in fact, I was starting to put together stuff last night, which I will share with you, that I'm going to be sharing with my healthcare organization in an attempt to get them to get rid of specifically weekly testing and wearing of the N95 mask. It's interesting. There are a lot of studies on mask wearing out there. And before the pandemic, there was a significant study that was done, and I'll get more details for you at a later date. But there was a significant study that was done that showed conclusively that N95 masks were not any more significantly protective in preventing the spread from the wearer of droplets compared to a regular surgical or procedural mask. And so that's significant. So realistically, we should, those of us in healthcare, not be forced to wear N95 masks when our colleagues can wear regular masks. So anyway, I'm going to be pushing on that, and I'll share that letter with you when I'm going to be sending it to the Human Resources VP. I even thought about tagging the medical director for the healthcare organization that I work for, and just get the conversation going, hopefully. And that's my PRN job. So if I lose that job, it's not the end of the world. But I'm going to push gently and say, look, you don't need to do this stuff anymore. And a federal judge decided that. So ding dong, the mandate's dead. And I hope you're breathing a little bit of sigh of relief this morning, but we still have a fight, folks. Never give up the fight, because the other side is going to keep fighting. They're not going to give this up, and we need to be just as vigilant. Anyway, this is John Adamson with Seeking Light. Take care. God bless.